Screw you, boss. How I followed his stupid rules to the letter and made his life a living hell. Hey, Reddit, I need to vent and share how I turned my boss's own stupid rules against him and made his life a living hell. Ew, this all started a few months ago, and the fallout is still fresh. So grab some popcorn and enjoy. Let me set the scene. I work for a mid-sized company in Oslo. The company itself is great, but my boss, Kjell, is a total tyrant. He's the kind of guy who loves micromanaging and making everyone's lives miserable just because he can. Every single detail, no matter how small, has to be done his way, even if it makes no sense. His favorite catchphrase, follow the rules or face the consequences. Now, I'm not usually a troublemaker. I'm a pretty laid-back guy. My name is Leif, by the way. But Kjell pushed me too far. It all started when I took a day off for my sister's wedding. I had given Kjell 3 months' notice, filled out the proper forms, and even found a temporary replacement to cover my shift. Everything was set. But on the day of the wedding, I get a call from Kjell. Leif, where the hell are you? We're swamped here, he barked. I'm at my sister's wedding, Kjell. I told you about this months ago, I replied, trying to keep my cool. Well, we need you. Get here or face the consequences, he snapped and hung up. I didn't go in. I couldn't. It was my sister's wedding, for crying out loud. The next day, Kjell called me into his office. He was livid. Leif, you violated company policy by not showing up yesterday. Consider this a warning. Next time, there will be severe consequences, he growled. I was furious. I had followed all the rules, and yet I was still getting chewed out. That's when I decided to fight back. If Kjell wanted me to follow the rules, I'd follow them to the letter and make his life a living nightmare. Over the next few weeks, I studied the company's rule book like it was the Bible. I found every obscure, ridiculous rule that Kjell himself had put in place. I also made sure to document every single one of Kjell's transgressions. Late for a meeting? Noted. Misfiled a report? Noted. I was gathering ammo for the perfect storm. One day, Kjell sent out an email stating that all breaks had to be exactly 15 minutes. No more, no less. Most people took it as just another one of his ridiculous demands, but I saw an opportunity. From that day on, I took my breaks exactly as the rulebook stated. If I started my break at 10:01, I'd be back at 10:16, not a second earlier or later. At first, Kjell didn't notice, but after a week, he called me into his office again. Leif, I've noticed you've been very precise with your breaks. What's going on? He asked suspiciously. I'm just following the rules, Kjell, I said with a fake smile. He grumbled something under his breath and dismissed me. But this was just the beginning. Next, I started enforcing the dress code. Our rule book had a strict policy on attire that Kjell loved to flaunt. So, when he showed up wearing jeans on a Friday, I made a point of saying, Nice jeans, Kjell. Aren't those against the dress code? He glared at me, but couldn't say anything because I was right. The following week, I saw him wearing sneakers. Again, I pointed it out. Kjell, those sneakers don't seem to meet the company's dress code. This time, he snapped, Leif, mind your own business. Just following the rules, boss, I said, walking away with a grin. The more I followed Kjell's rules, the more he seemed to unravel. I started pointing out every little thing he did that was against the rulebook. If he was late to a meeting, I'd make a note of it and email him a reminder of the punctuality policy. If he forgot to file a report, I'd send him a gentle reminder about the importance of documentation. The breaking point came when Kjell scheduled a mandatory team meeting on a Saturday, which was against company policy. Our rule book clearly stated that weekends were off limits for mandatory meetings. I gathered the team and we collectively decided to not show up. When Monday rolled around, Kjell was fuming. Where the hell was everyone on Saturday? He demanded. According to the rulebook, weekends are off limits for mandatory meetings, I said, handing him a copy of the policy. His face turned red. This is ridiculous, Leif. You're sabotaging the team. I'm just following the rules, Kjell. Your rules, I said, staring him down. That's when he lost it. He started yelling about how the rules didn't apply to him, how he was the boss and could do whatever he wanted, but the team was behind me, We were all fed up with his nonsense. Shell's meltdown didn't go unnoticed. HR got involved after multiple complaints from the team. They started an investigation, and I made sure they had all the evidence they needed. I handed over every email, every note, every ridiculous rule Shell had broken. The investigation took weeks. During this time, Shell's behavior got even worse. He was paranoid, snapping at everyone, and making even more ridiculous demands. But we all stood our ground. We followed the rules to the letter, and it drove him insane. One Friday afternoon, HR called a meeting with the entire team. The head of HR, Ingrid, was there along with Shell. She started the meeting with a stern look. After a thorough investigation, it has come to our attention that numerous company policies have been violated by management, Ingrid began. Effective immediately, Shell is no longer with the company. There was a collective gasp. Shell stood up, his face pale. You can't do this. I'm the boss. Ingrid didn't flinch. Shell, you're being escorted out of the building. Security is waiting. He stormed out, and we all sat in stunned silence. Finally, Ingrid spoke again. We understand the past few months have been difficult. We'll be making changes to ensure this never happens again. With Shell gone, the atmosphere at work changed overnight. People were happier, more relaxed, and productivity actually improved. The new management was more reasonable, and they even asked for our input on revising some of the more ridiculous rules. As for me, I felt a mixture of relief and satisfaction. I had stood up to a tyrant and won. It wasn't just about following the rules. It was about showing that no one is above them, not even the boss. One day, I received an email from HR. They wanted to thank me for my role in exposing Shell's behavior and invited me to join a committee to help improve workplace policies. I accepted, eager to make a positive difference. And that, Reddit, is how I followed my boss's stupid rules to the letter and made his life a living hell. It wasn't easy, and it wasn't always fun, but in the end, it was worth it. Screw you, Shell. This one's for the team.